Hey there, folks, and welcome to the final week of Zelda month. I know, I'm sad too. But hey, there's always next year. Anywho, this isn't a vlog, so let's roll that intro for the last time and get on with the video. Here to discuss my top 5 favorite Zelda items of all time. Again, this is my list. I haven't done a lot of top lists because it's hard for me to rank things, so don't take this as a definitive list of the best items, or just dislike the video and say 0 out of 10, list didn't include Wolf Link. Because, for one, you can go make a top 5 list of your own and include whatever you love most. And secondly, Wolf Link is the worst. And I'll happily drink your tears over his absence on this list. This got dark. So, without further ado, here is my top 5 favorite Zelda items of all time, starting with... Number 5. Spinner. Okay, so after just bashing Wolf Link, you might be surprised to find anything from Twilight Princess on this list. After all, anyone that knows me well knows how much I dislike that game, and almost everything about it, but... even I can't deny that it has some of the most fun, creative items in the series. Actually, before I realized how much work it was going to be, I was going to do this as a top 10 list, and there were going to be 3 items from Twilight Princess in it. But alas, I'm lazy, so only the best one made the list, but man is it cool. The entire Arbiter's Ruins has a really cool aesthetic, and some pretty clever puzzle designs, but it really gets awesome when the entire back half of the dungeon becomes a spinner puzzle, that feels more like something out of a Metroid Prime game, as the spinner requires precision timing and jumping between points, much like the Spider Ball puzzles in the Metroid Prime series. Plus, on top of being essentially one large, awesome puzzle in the dungeon, the boss is also one of the most fun, unique boss experiences I've ever played. The first part plays out almost like a game of Breakout, where you have to shoot off from the edge and break the section of the boss's spine until he gets super pissed and just head attacks you as you swirl around a tower, jumping from side to side until you catch up and bash him in the skull. It's pretty friggin' sweet. That's all I have to say about that. The spinner is a super fun traversal item that lets you fly over sand and zip along certain walls. And it's a fun bumper car style weapon to beat up bad guys. What more could you want? Well, to answer that question, I'd love to have that weapon in a game that I like more. And no, Hyrule Warriors does not count. Number 4. Rock's Cape. Link has always seemed to have a weird fear of jumping. Aside from Zelda 2, which barely even counts as a Zelda game, because... yeah, just don't even get me started on that Rage Fest. The only time Link has properly jumped is through the Rock's Feather item in a few of the handheld titles. Then the Rock's Cape came about to let Link float after his jump to pass over even larger gaps. This was used in Oracle of Seasons as simply a longer jump, but it was much better utilized in Minish Cap as a proper puzzle-solving item, and was even briefly used in combat. Minish Cap was a 2D handheld title, but had a much larger focus on verticality and dimensional puzzles than any handheld game before it, and because of that, the Rock's Cape was a natural fit. It was still used to cross gaps, but also to hop up to higher platforms and then soar much further distances, as well as being combined with wind turbines to pull off a glide that even Buzz Lightyear would be proud of. And while it was almost entirely used for traversal, it could also be used to hop over enemies to get a drop on them from behind, which was specifically useful against the tricky Darknut enemies that have always been a struggle to beat. It's not really a glamorous, powerful, or cool item, but in a series not exactly known for jumping puzzles, the amount of puzzle variety Minish Cap was able to get out of this item makes it deserving of a spot on the list. Number 3. Deku Leaf. Okay, so yeah, I have a soft spot for fun traversal items that are also useful in puzzles. At least you know what to expect now. The Deku Leaf is a lot of fun, though, and another rare example of long-distance aerial movement in a Zelda game. While it does allow Link to float over long distances, often combined with weird, physics-defying wind tunnels that allow Link to regain aerial height, it also has many more uses that make it one of the coolest Zelda items out there. The leaf can create a concentrated gust of wind when flapped in front of Link that can activate wind turbines to move platforms, stun enemies, and push items through context-sensitive barriers. Even Peahats, another notoriously annoying Zelda enemy, are no match for the strong wind Link blows at them with the leaf, which is extremely satisfying. In fact, there are a few times in Wind Waker where the Deku Leaf isn't mapped to an item button because of how many uses it has and how many times it can be used to turn the tide of a tricky battle. So yeah, the Deku Leaf is great. Anyone disagree? Don't care, make your own list. Moving on. Number 2. Magnet Gloves. This is an item I really wish would be part of more games. My love for this item comes from Oracle of Seasons, where it essentially replaces the traditional hookshot style item, and oh man, it succeeds. Unlike the hookshot or the switch hook in Oracle of Ages, where you essentially just grab onto a spot and go to it, the magnet gloves use actual polarity to push or pull different points. There are certain sections where you have to pull an item close to you and hold it to block dangerous items, or where you have to push yourself away from a point and then let go to land on solid ground. It even comes into play in the side-scroller areas to create really clever traversal puzzles, and you all know by now how much I friggin' love a good traversal puzzle. The item can even be used as a weapon, as certain enemies also have polarity, and you have to bring them closer to you in order to hit them. This item is honestly just one of the best examples of how clever puzzle mechanics can get when Zelda moves away from those traditional items like the bow and boomerang and tries something a little different. And Oracle of Seasons is a better of the Oracle games because of the bigger risks it takes with its items and puzzle diversity. Number 1. Sand Rod. And we've made it. My personal favorite Zelda item of all time. And another one that has really only been in one game, unfortunately. There was a similar item in Spirit Tracks called the Sand Wand that basically just raised sand platforms and was mostly garbage, but I consider the Sand Rod to be its own item, hence the different name. It allows some of the most brilliant Zelda puzzles I've ever played, especially when combined with some of Link Between Worlds' unique mechanics. Essentially, the Sand Rod still only allows you to create sand platforms, but the way this was used were just brilliant. From simply merging with the platforms to get across gaps, to raising enemies out of the sand to startle them and make them easier to hit, to raising statues that can be grabbed from a higher platform and moved onto switches, the sheer variety of puzzles this one item allows makes it really stand out in a game full of great items and great puzzles. There's also a brilliant section of steering cannonballs to different areas in order to break barriers that I literally squealed at when first playing through the game, because it was such a clever use of an item. The only drawback to this item is that it can only be used in sand, which makes its use limited outside of the dungeon you need it for, but that dungeon is such a highlight of the game that it just stands tall as my favorite Zelda item so far. So there you have it. If you haven't already rage quit this video due to my opinions, I thank you for tuning in and hope you'll share your favorite items in the comments below, because I'd love to hear what stuck out to others. The Zelda series is a very diverse one, with dozens of items to choose from, and almost all of them are amazing. These 5 are mostly chosen for the amount of memorable puzzles they allow, as I've always loved the puzzles more than the combat in Zelda, but yeah, after a month of looking back at the history of Zelda through various titles, I hope you've enjoyed this retrospective of awesome items the series has put to excellent use over the years. So until next November, have fun. Oh crap!
Because Tingle's stealing our
Tingle!
Force gems.
Tingle!
He only wants the big one.
No,
It's
Tingle!
fine.
Tingle, what are you doing?
Oh, wait, you took all of them.
No, Tingle!
I took the big one.
Tingle!
You're screwed now. Those Force gems are Tingle.
Tingle!
Nope, gone.
Lost,